Hello there, and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Today we're going to be giving our thoughts on the entire series of Obi Wan Kenobi. And Josh, I believe you have some South Park reviews for us.
Yes, a little behind on the 8-ball with South Park lately. They've come out with two new straight-to streaming specials. The St. Patrick's Day special, which I know, I'm late. And recently, South Park, The Streaming Wars.
Oh yes. Yeah, I saw a few clips of this. It was clever pun usage, wasn't it?
Very, very clever pun usage. I've noticed that Matt and Trey with this they're starting to get a little bit of a canon going, sort of like a more serialization happening with South Park, where the end of a series will play into the streaming special, and then the next series will carry on with the side effects of what happened in the streaming special. A good example would be at the end of South Park Season 25. Can you believe that we're at the end of Season 25 already?
It's been that long, has it? Wow.
One of their shortest seasons, only 5 episodes. At the end of that series, they played it off that Cartman is now no longer living at wherever it was he was in South Park. He's now living out of an old hot dog stand restaurant because he just couldn't let his mom have a job. So that plays into the next, the first streaming special, the Credigary Weed Presents the St. Patrick Day special. So that kicks off again after the last episode of season 25, where the Black family, literally that's their last name, with the main child being Token. Turns out his actual name is Tolkien.
Oh.
We've been saying it wrong because we're racist pieces of... You might want to bleep that.
Yes.
So, their words, not mine. So they end up with Mr. Black, Tolkien's father, ends up buying a pot of land and starting up a competing weed growing business to Randy Marsh's...
Oh wow, that's still going.
Integrity weed. Yeah, it's still going.
Wow. That's been 5 years that plotline was introduced.
It has been. The funny thing is, this only happened was because in the previous season, season 25, Randy actually hired on Tolkien's father in a way to give him street cred because he was losing access to like 70% of his customer base.
Right.
So that got flipped on its head, which is why there's now Credigary weed literally right across the road.
Right.
The St. Patrick's Day special is sort of a huge riff on, I guess you could say, cultural appropriation. Randy has this huge spiel of, just because you're black, you can't appropriate Irish culture.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Butters gets arrested for being a sexual assaulter.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Butters, of all people, because he pinched a girl because he thought she wasn't wearing green. She was wearing green socks.
Butters has got a weird streak to him, doesn't he? It's sort of like...
Butters has a very weird streak.
They keep playing him like he's, oh, it's so shocking that Butters said or did something, but it's always like, if anyone's going to say the really weird thing, it's going to be Cartman or it's going to be Butters.
Absolutely, and Butters won't realize what he's saying until it's too late, which is the big problem when it comes to Butters. Not much happens with there. Randy ends up getting arrested, which leads on to South Park, The Streaming Wars. This is the big one. This is the huge one where Matt and Trey are finally poking fun at their new platform.
That's the Paramount Plus, isn't it?
Actually, I did a little digging into this. Apparently, they have 2 exclusive deals. Originally, they had signed on with HBO Max, and then Paramount came around and offered them a better deal.
Right.
Which is why if you go to HBO Max, you can only find the South Park seasons, not the streaming specials.
So they're split across the 2.
Yes. But you can find all of it on Paramount.
Oh, so seasons as well?
Yes.
Oh.
Going all the way back to season 1.
Well, it definitely gives them the edge there.
Oh, definitely. It's the same thing with HBO, but it's a more of a exclusivity deal, and in the streaming wars, it really, really shows that, the main focus for the most part was Stan and Tolkien, because they're becoming fast friends, because they literally live across the road from each other. Their dads own weed farms that are competing, and it's like, well, whatever. Stan and Tolkien are the definite stand-ins for Matt and Trey being caught between two companies.
All right.
Because it turns out, so the whole plot evolves around Man Bear Pig is real and he's back. Super serial, you guys.
Yeah, that was the plot line with Al Gore in the early to mid 2000s, where Al Gore had this theory that Man Bear Pig, which was like a stand-in for climate change,
Yes.
was this horrible thing that was coming, and everyone ignored him. And then it was a recent episode that revealed that Man Bear Pig was very much alive and real, as kind
Absolutely.
of a
They did
180 on
whole
their
apology
beliefs.
episode.
Yeah, very on the nose. That one.
Man Bear Pig is causing a drought. There's less water runoff from the snow melting in Colorado. So the city of Colorado, of Denver, I should say, has called in an official drought due to Man Bear Pig. It's so funny. They bring back old character. I can't remember what episode or season he popped in, but PP. He runs a water park in Denver.
Oh,
And
okay.
he uses distilled pee instead of water because it saves on money.
Right.
Yes. What about the pee? That is how they have him act. So Tolkien's father ends up finding out that he can sell water rights or streaming rights with the water that he doesn't use for his farm. So he creates a streaming service so long as he can prove that his water or his stream makes it to the reservoir.
Right.
Yeah, now you're catching on.
Yes.
And that leads into him hiring Stan and Tolkien to make little paddle pop stick boats to try and prove this theory. He pays them like $5 a boat.
And that's like an allegory for content creators being paid to produce stuff, I guess. Right.
A huge allegory, because then Randy then hires the boys at double the price to do the exact same thing. So you can look at it as Randy is HBO Max and Tolkien's father is Paramount.
Where's that available to watch?
At the moment, that is primarily on Paramount Plus, not sponsored. And anywhere else you can really try to find it online. Mostly it is on Paramount Plus at the moment. You can watch the other shows on HBO Max or Binge if you've got access to that, but everything now is on Paramount. There's a nice little, throughout the special, there's a nice little old film with Jack Nicholson was a crooked cop. He's a water commissioner in this one. I can't remember. I think it was Chinatown?
I think it's Chinatown. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Kind of a riff on that, him going around to all the farms saying, hey, you've got these rights, you can all do all this.
I wonder if in a few years' time this will still hold up, because, there's kind of the theories about what's going to happen with the streaming services. People seem to think in 5 years' time we'll only have we'll be back to your basics. You won't have, there's so many. It's hard to keep track of.
And that is something that they actually state in the show through Butters. Yeah, what's the point? They're all going to be the same in the end. Never known.
But yes, that's South Park, new series, new specials. That's on Paramount Plus.
Apologies for the vulgarity.
Obi Wan Kenobi. You want to talk about that one?
Kenobi! Yes!
Obi Wan Kenobi is a 6-part Star Wars series streaming on Disney Plus, starring Ewan McGregor in the title role, reprising it for the first time since 2005's Revenge of the Sith. It's been 10 years since that movie in universe, since the downfall of the Republic, the death of the Jedi, and the rise of the Empire. The fascistic Inquisitors, the alien leader, played by Rupert Friend, who recently appeared in the Netflix series Anatomy of a Scandal, hunt down the remaining Jedi, and the junior Inquisitor, Reva, played by Moses Ingram from the film Macbeth, as well as the Queen's Gambit series, seems to have it in for Kenobi. She kidnaps the young Princess Leia, leading to Leia's adoptive parents, played by Jimmy Smits and Simone Kessel, to call on Obi-Wan for help, and after much deliberation he picks up his lightsaber once again to engage in a planet-hopping, galaxy-wide adventure. So we talked about the first 3 episodes a few weeks ago, and now it's all available to watch. What did you think at the end of it?
This is definitely a film, it's not a film, sorry, a series.
It's a long film.
It's like a film, yes, that for the most part, especially with Star Wars now, they're walking on a tightrope. You can't do one thing without annoying another thing. And I think Kenobi encapsulates, while maybe not playing it entirely safe, it is good, but it's still plays a bit safe because there's a lot of stuff that they can't mess with because
You mean trying to fit in between A New Hope and
yeah,
Revenge of
trying
the
to
Sith?
fit in because of the many layers of what is canon in Star Wars, and I think Kenobi does that really well.
Yeah, I went and checked out. I actually watched the original Star Wars: A New Hope after watching the series, and there's a few comments in there that Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan makes, which kind of like directly contradict what happens in the show. But then you look at what happens in the prequel series, which is actually made by George Lucas, you know, the man who's responsible for writing all these films, or the original ones, and he directly contradicts himself there as well. Like, you know, remember
Oh
in
yeah, no, that's
Return of the
always gonna
Jedi,
happen.
Return of the Jedi, where Leia can remember her mother being very sad, and in Padme Amidala, her mother dies in childbirth when she wouldn't have had any memory of it. Yeah, A New Hope really gave the impression there was a greater distance of time between the Clone Wars, Luke and Leia's birth, and the events of those films.
The way that Luke talks about the Clone Wars in New Hope, it almost sounds like a child of the 60s talking about World War II, or, depending on which country you're from, the Korean War or the Maladay emergency.
Yeah, it is kind of wild to think that, you know, returning actors of Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Peace, who were in Attack of the Clones, which came out 20 years ago. It's a greater distance of time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It's 19 years between
Yes.
those films. And I mean, I was a kid back then when that came out, so...
We were both kids. I mean, we're still young enough to be able to say, yeah, we saw Phantom Menace in theaters.
Oh, if you were lucky enough to see it. Yeah.
True enough.
Yeah, well, you did you?
Yes, I did. I was, that was 99, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I remember when it
I
came out.
was 6 when it came out.
Yeah, how old are you? I'm 28.
I'm 29.
Right, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, I didn't get to see my first Star Wars movie in cinemas till The Force Awakens, so...
Ouch.
Still special, you know, I still like that.
Still very special.
Yeah, I still like that film.
No, Kenobi definitely has a lot of... I think the biggest problem with Kenobi that we have is that we built it up too much.
Well, when I first heard they were going to do this, I thought, is it just going to be him running around Tatooine just doing stuff? You know, like I kind of expected maybe, you know, like each episode would be like a little vignette, like, you know, it'll be its own little contained story, but then no series has really been like that so far.
The astounding tales of Obi Wan Kenobi and his adventures on Tatooine.
Unfortunately, we got a lot of Tatooine action in Book of Boba Fett, but even
Yes.
that, like, you know, I remember when they were talking about there being flashbacks in that series, and I was so excited to see something like before The Empire Strikes Back, you know, maybe have young Daniel Logan or something. But it's all the flashbacks
Still
to
on
the
Tatooine.
Yeah, it's all on Tatooine. It's all the flashbacks to Tuskens, and I think the Tusken flashbacks were the best part of that series for the most part.
Agreed.
Yeah, with this one, I kind of thought maybe we'd see him. He defends the Lars homestead from some Tuskens, and Owen tells him, you know, get out of here, don't come back. And we maybe get a live-action recreation of Darth Maul, but
I'm actually glad they didn't touch on that.
yeah, same. People
I'm
are kind
very
of talking
glad
about
that
there
they
being a sequel series now, but I'm sort of thinking, I think we're pushing it as it is.
We are very much pushing it. I think the performances were really good all round. I'm not gonna lie, I squeed when I saw Hayden back.
Yes, episode
Not,
5.
not as just the announcement, but actually seeing him in his old Attack of the Clones costume for the dual flashback.
You look really good there.
A little older, but you know,
More
dude's
refined.
looking good for 40.
Yeah. What can we
Well-
talk about? We don't want to spoil too much about the finale. That episode
Good
5.
thing to talk about, I could say, would be is that the series is reflective of the saga itself.
Oh, yeah?
Each episode, I've noticed, actually evolves around the same plot threads as one of the 6 movies.
Well, episode 5 of the Obi-Wan series was very Last Jedi, wasn't it?
Very Empire in my books.
Well, it's kind of a mix of both, but you've gone and got the Resistance in The Last Jedi, who are like in the cave, in the mines. There's a big door that's preventing the Empire or the First Order from getting in. There's a lightsaber duel that's not a lightsaber duel between Kylo and Luke and between Reva and Vader. You've gone and got the Resistance or the Rebels fleeing Star Destroyers through space on like impulse power, with sublight drives, no hyperspace or anything like that.
The hyperdrive motivator was down, which is exactly what happened with the Falcon.
There is that, true, yeah. But the image of the the big capital ship chasing the tiny rebel ship through space was a lot more dynamic.
Again, that's a very Empire with how they were chasing down the Falcon.
Are there any original ideas in these films beyond those first three?
Well, no. But
'Cause-
at least they tried
Yeah.
with the prequels. The sequels felt imaginative but very unimaginative in places.
Sort of playing it safe.
And too safe. What I mean by each one reflects on the each one of the movies is the plot threads and the themes. Episode 1, Tatooine, meet a Force-sensitive child, learn about the Force, and deal with a dark side user on Tatooine. Episode 2, neon-looking world that's not actually Coruscant, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's...
Dealing with a sort of a Blade Runner mystery.
That planet, it was a brand new, like, sort of Hong Kong-inspired planet, but I sort of look at it thinking it's just very Coruscant, isn't it?
Very Coruscant, but, well, at least lower levels of Coruscant.
Yeah, sort of 1313 kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it still holds out on its own. Episode 3, we finally get that
The confrontation
between Anakin and Obi Wan,
or Vader, we should say.
Vader, and someone gets burnt.
Episode 4, I guess, has the sneaking around at an Imperial facility like you have with the Death Star.
Fortress Inquisitus.
There's a lot of homages to other existing Star Wars stuff. Like, I mean, that whole mission was very... Well, I call it mission. Episode 4 of the Kenobi show was very similar to the final mission of the Jedi Fallen Order game, which came out a few years ago.
It was practically taken nearly beat for beat.
Yeah, I mean, our Jedi hero sneaks into the base by swimming underwater and encounters Purge troopers and stormtroopers and doesn't quite face off against Darth Vader, but almost.
Given the current timeline, it would be possible for Obi-Wan to meet up with Cal Kestis.
Oh, there was rumours going around that Cameron Monaghan, who played the character in the Fallen Order game, was in talks with Disney Plus to star in something live action. But who knows whether that's going to be Star Wars or it could be Marvel, could be something completely unrelated.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, unfortunately. It's like getting Kyle Katarn. We're not going to get Kyle Katarn, guys. We can keep dreaming, but it ain't happening.
One thing I really liked about this series was it made Vader really scary.
Oh my god, thank you. Someone said it. Vader is scary!
And he's really horrible. He's not a nice person.
No!
No, but
No, he is not!
it's like, in those original movies, you know, Vader was kind of that Saturday morning cartoon villain. He's very basic in the very first Star Wars movie, and then, of course, you learn his connection to Luke in The Empire Strikes Back, and that makes him a more compelling character. And I've seen people complain over the years about the whole...
threat.
Remember in Revenge of the Sith, you know, Order 66, and he goes in and kills a bunch of children, and a lot of people have been like, oh, you've ruined Darth Vader, how could you do that? But no, he's not a nice person.
No.
That film actually, it suggests, I mean, you got the iconic scene where the child comes out and says, what are we going to do, Master Skywalker? And Anakin, or Vader, we should say, turns on his blade. And to actually see him murdering children in this series, it really hammers home how horrible he is. And yeah, he's not nice.
No, and I think I said this in our original review. This is the Vader I grew up reading about. This is the Vader in the books that you're told about, the Vader that you're meant to fear just by seeing his mere presence appear on screen. And that's what makes this Vader so good, is that he is terrifying, he is dangerous. He's not just one hallway scene away from murdering a bunch of rebels. No, this is the Vader that will burn the ground down to accomplish his mission. The Vader who will stop at nothing to achieve his goal. I know I keep going back to other sources, but in the canon material now, in the Marvel comic series, Vader actually tamed an eldritch cosmic horror being.
Really?
And flew it to Exegol.
Yeah, those comics have been interesting. They've kind of recontextualized his relationship with Palpatine because, I mean, you can look at how they are in Return of the Jedi, how it almost seems like Vader is defeated at the idea of returning to the light. He's sort of been beaten down and broken, and it sort of makes it hard to sympathise for him knowing all that's happened since. But yeah, those comics have really shown it's quite an abusive relationship between him and Palpatine. Like, Palpatine's just always picking on him and, like, you know, belittling him, and understandably so. I mean, it was...
This is the nature of the Sith.
It was also his own hubris that led to him ending up the way he is.
True.
Yeah, it achieves a lot with not much time. Like, I was kind of scared going into that final episode, worried we weren't going to get enough to wrap up, but it kind of finishes with that big climactic moment, and it's not even halfway through the final episode, and you got a lot of time then to sort of wrap things up and put a little bow on it.
Unwind.
Well, you still got a bit of tension there with the character of Reva. What do you make of her?
Reva was definitely a character there to hate, there to not like. A perfect reflection of Anakin when we first met him and when we last saw him.
She's kind of a dark mirror to Obi-Wan as well, where they're going through similar feelings of like trauma in relation to what happened in their past. I do like what they did with her towards the end. It's kind of refreshing to see that a character who has done so many horrible things can maybe have a chance to sort of reflect upon that without just keeling over and dying.
Themselves on their own, not have someone else show them, yes, there is still good in you.
Because, I mean, with the original movie, with Vader, I guess, you know, when he redeems himself, you know, you didn't have all this additional context we now have for all the horrible things he's done, which kind of makes it a bit hard to swallow. And that they repeat the same mistake with Kylo Ren, where he's complicit in a lot of horrible things, he does a lot of bad things, and then they just go, oh yeah, he's, you know.
He's cool.
He's cool.
It's alright.
But with Reva, I mean, there's a lot of toxic stuff going on online about that character and the actress, which is horrible.
It is.
For some people, because of that bias, you know, they're not going to forgive her anyway. I mean, I don't forgive Kylo Ren, how they wrote him. It's pretty shoddy the way they sort of treated that story. But with Reva, I'm interested to see where they take it, and glad they didn't just do what they did with other similar characters.
Well, I'm honestly not sure. I'm interested to see what they do with Reva, but I'm also happy if Reva just goes off and does her own thing, you know? Like, we get a book or we see her off in a different series.
Maybe that's what they're doing with Cal Kestis.
Maybe. Like, I originally went into this thinking maybe we might get a reference to Ferrus Olin. He was a character from the EU, one of the old books, The Last of the Jedi, and he ended up becoming Leia's protector, watcher, observer.
Oh, right.
And how he was a former Jedi Padawan who left the Order because he felt that he had done a terrible mistake. And it just so happened to involve Anakin. He ended up cutting himself off from the Force by, well, mentally doubting himself, much like Obi-Wan has. But he did it to protect himself, where Ferrus sort of just went, well, what do I do now? I failed as a Jedi. And they managed to write it off where, oh, the reason why he's not in the movies is because he was on Alderaan when it blew up. Well, I mean, that's a good way to fix it now, isn't it?
Well, I was just thinking about Leia's droid, Lola. What becomes of that?
Oh, who knows? We may end up seeing that Lola was somehow saved. That she was, I don't know, in Leia's personal storage somewhere.
I did see something interesting earlier, because Leia did officially get a lightsaber in The Rise of Skywalker, and the design of it is very similar to Obi Wan Kenobi's, which now makes a lot more sense when you think about the fact that her son was named Ben, her lightsaber.
It makes a hell of a lot more sense now. It's like,
all...
hang on a second. Why would you name your son Ben? As much as it pains me to say it, it almost feels like Kenobi was just a way to sort of play that off.
That's the thing. You can go in and fill these gaps after the fact, you know, by other writers. In recent years, there's been a bit of back-talking about, like, J.J. Abrams and what he did, like, where they wanted to blow up Coruscant, which is the main political planet that a lot of the action takes part, or I say action, a lot of the talking takes place on in the prequel films. But they said you can't blow up Coruscant, so they went and created Hosnian Prime and murdered trillions more, just, you know, with a click of the fingers. Kenobi works. It's one of those ones.
Kenobi's good.
Sort of like Clone Wars in a way. It sort of came out 3 years after the last film in the big trilogy, much like the Clone Wars did. Fills in a few gaps and...
I honestly don't know if we should get a continuation of the Kenobi series because
Nah, I'm happy as it is. I did kind of have that realization as he was waving Leia off at the end, like, oh, this is going to be one of the last times we see him in the role. But I mean, it's 5 hours of stuff we didn't have a month ago.
true, and it's also what I think to be pretty damn good stuff.
Yeah, and it's built
It's not
upon.
the best, but it's good.
It's better than what we had before, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely with Star Wars, one of the big things is it's going to be hit and miss. You can't please everybody, and I think this definitely, while it tries to play it safe in places, just goes through unapologetically, just like, this is it. This is canon now. The only thing that will supersede this will be the actual movies.
Yeah, well, I don't see any reason to change it. It's crowd pleaser.
No.
Anyway, that's our sort of rambly final thoughts on the Obi Wan Kenobi series. It's available to watch on Disney+. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.